your love light come into me. Show me what I need to see.
Welcome to the Small Victories Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria, an inspirational thought leader that offers transformational perspectives based on my unique experiences as a woman born without arms and legs. I feel like my life has been full of small victories that has led me to discover the greatness within. I believe that there is no summit upon which we reach our greatness. I believe it is a culmination of small victories achieved moment by moment when we turn toward the inward battle where we get to choose despair or hope, misery or miracles, defeat or victory. My goal is to awaken your potential, your purpose, and your power so that you can discover the greatness that lives within you. Think of this podcast as your weekly portion of tools, stories, and teachings that help you reflect on the small victories in your life. Thanks for tuning in, and let's begin. Welcome to another episode of the Small Victories Podcast. I'm your host, Pauline Victoria. What if your greatest strength as an entrepreneur wasn't your strategy, your funding, or even your passion, but your ability to choose in the face of uncertainty? In today's episode, I'm joined by entrepreneur, philosopher, and author Hussein Hallak. Born in Syria, raised under sanctions, and now living a life of impact and innovation, Hussein shares his journey of self-belief, reinvention, and radical presence. From his philosophy of play, learn, repeat, to his reflections in his book, The Dark Art of Life Mastery, he invites us to stop chasing the illusion of certainty and start creating from the now. If you've ever struggled with perfectionism, felt stuck in your goals, or questioned the value of what you're building, this episode will help you shift the way you lead, live, and love your entrepreneurial journey. Thanks for joining us. Hussein, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you for having me. And that's a great introduction. I love it. I'm amazed of how people find their own way of introducing me. So I'm discovering more about myself with every introduction.
I love that. I love that. I'm so glad to do it for you because I know there are people in my life that do that for me. And I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't know that about myself. Thank you. Or put words to something I knew about myself, but couldn't articulate. So you're welcome and thank you.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. I love the conversation we're going to have today, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds because uncertainty is something that I think a lot of people feel and it stops them, but people don't really address. So I'm really excited to hear about your own personal journey through uncertainty and how you have become comfortable with choosing or making the choices you've made, even in the face of uncertainty. So let's start at the beginning. You grew up in Syria under sanctions. I'm a born and raised American girl. That world is so far away from me, and I'm sure from a lot of our listeners. Could you just paint the picture of what that looked like and felt like as a child?
Well, as I was growing up, we had at very young age, it was like a lot of fun because my parents, everybody was paid well. My parents were, even though they were employees, my mom was a teacher. My dad, they used to work as a journalist. There were always, I remember, I think every couple of weeks there was a party, people coming around. So I grew up used to the idea of like, there's always people at our house, people visiting, people having fun conversations. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed, of course, having kids around and playing with them, but I also enjoyed the company of adults. Like they were talking, it was the entertainment. There was no other, it was the social media of our age, right?
Yeah.
That was social media. That's like your window to the world is like, what are they talking about and what are they discussing? And of course, like when they make adult jokes, they put their hands on our ears. And then what ended up happening is, I think around the 80s, sanctions happened in Syria. And there was a drastic difference in how much money we had, access to certain things. I would remember that we had to stand in line to get rice, sugar, tea. and we get our own portions dedicated for us as a family. And I remember standing in line for a long time to get bread, to get tissues. I remember this tissues things, like that's why we're standing in line, to get tissues. So these are things I absolutely hated when I was growing up, because it was my teenage years. All I remember is going down to get, basically to do my job, because my dad is at work. I will go and pick up those stuff. And then around the start of my university time, sanctions eased up and Syria started to open up. So definitely there is like a very palpable feeling between having access and not having access. And all I had, I was reading the other day that it's very important to be bored. And I remember being bored quite a bit because we had 1 hour of kids programming. So it was like the most important hour of the day, hour and a half. And then the rest, you had nothing to do. I would play around with Lego, invent some games to play. And of course, my mom would insist that I study very, very well. So that's how my days went in Syria up until I was an adult.
Wow. What drastic lifestyles you had to live at an early age. Do you feel like that contributed to your philosophy about choosing what you want or going after your goals in the face of uncertainty?
I think it did. We are shaped by a lot of forces in our lives. We like to think that our individual decision making and choices have the biggest impact, but in fact, we live among different concentric circles. There is our own world where probably our choice has what we think the biggest impact, but we live within a community where if the community chooses something, it impacts us. And we live within systemic forces, the country we live in. As let's say when the sanctions happened, nothing, like we didn't do anything, but we were subject to the challenges and the forces of the country we were living in. So definitely that caused me to want to live in a place where those systemic forces are less intrusive, let's say. So that definitely was in my mind, that I wanted to be in a place where somebody who I don't know makes a decision without my interference at all. And that changes my life. I didn't like that. So I wanted a little bit more independence and a little bit more ability to enact my own choices as someone who believes in the power of choice, or values it, I would say, more than it was never given. So I always sought it, if that makes sense. If you grew up, when I see someone growing up, let's say in the Western world, or in places where they didn't, let's say, go through the things I went through, for them it comes naturally and they don't even appreciate it. For me, the idea of choosing for my life every day and having that ability of choice is something to be cherished every day. And therefore, I live my life every day by choice. And I think, and I put a lot of emphasis onto onto those choices, and I make it deliberate, if that makes any sense. And those are the ones that matter most to me. And I'm a little bit more eased up about what I would say, what I can't control. I feel like a lot of people say the proverbial, I pay my taxes. You've heard this, you've seen it on the movies. I pay my taxes, as if like you can impact politics, or you impact, let's say, even your community leadership. But in many ways it doesn't. Even your choices don't have limited impact on your life, because your life unfolds within a community and unfolds within a system. So whenever I get the chance to enact my own choice on the things that matter most, like what do I do with my day? How do I live every day? It matters a lot, and I value it so much more. And I'm a little bit easier about the things I can't control. And I have a more understanding and more calm, I think, stoic approach towards the things I don't control, if that makes any sense. So I think it impacted me that way. Now looking at it and now thinking about how you're asking me, that's how I see it impacting me from an observer point of view, if I look at that from that perspective.
Yeah. I know when I think about the word freedom, what comes to me is not, oh, I get to do what I want, when I want, where I want, how I want. That's not, to me, the idea of freedom. The idea of freedom to me is the power to choose. Do I have choices in the matter? And then I get the freedom to choose. So freedom for me isn't one of this external, tangible thing out there that is gifted to me, because I feel like a lot of times in my life, just my circumstances, not having arms and legs, people would think of me and look at me and they go, oh, wow, you don't have a lot of freedom. You don't get to choose a lot. You don't get choice about things. And there can be times in my life when I do feel that, like, yeah, I don't get to shower when I want to shower, or I don't get to go where I want to go and how I want to go. It's like, yeah, that there are limitations to me, but the way I reconcile it in my mind is, but I get to choose. I get to choose how I perceive it. And I think for
Mm.
me, that is the greatest power one person can have, because there's so much around in our world that we cannot control,
Yeah.
that we'll drive ourselves crazy if control is the only thing we want.
Yes, I think that that's a very important word, the difference between control and choice. We think choice means control. We think freedom means control, and it doesn't. Thank you for mentioning that. I think I told you when we chatted before, my mom used to be a teacher in a special needs school.
Mm.
I remember going to her class, and her class, for example, had a girl so sweet, but she was completely burned. I think like third degree, like she was unrecognizable. So complete body burn. I've had people who were they were always on crutches, and friends if like they were people that had no hands as well. So all kinds of, let's say, special needs, or we called them special needs at the time. I think the names changed across the time. But I grew up around those, were because I used to hang out at my mom's school.
Mhm.
Those were some of my friends. And I can tell you, they play mean football. you cannot, I mean, and it's important. A lot of times what ends up happening, I'm sure you meant like you dealt it, we deal with it when we were younger. People treat us at a certain, when you're younger, as a kid, people treat you like a kid. When you're special needs, people treat you in a certain way. For
Yeah.
example, if somebody thinks that you don't speak the language, they raise their voice as if you're
Yeah.
deaf, and you're not. Like, people behave differently around things they're not comfortable with or not used to, because that's how they perceive they need to act. And what ends up happening, and I'm not immune to that, but growing up around that made me see, because the first thing is like, okay, I wonder what that person's life is like,
Mm.
because then I see, oh my God, how much privilege do I have? Even
Mm.
though like maybe poor or anything, it's like, oh my God, there's so much privilege. Like, I wonder how they, and then you find out that everyone has their own things that they're dealing with, and it's not what you think.
Right.
And then when you go past the, let's say, the physical or other things that matter to you and may not matter to them, and you end up, let's say, playing a game of soccer, and it's all about winning, and you say, like, people with crutches, for example, they use the crutch and they move it around, and you better jump out of the way of that crutch, or else you'll suffer. So they end up like, oh my God, they have so much advantage because they can reach the crutch, as opposed to you have to jumping around. What it matters, I think, comes back to that idea of choice, and what do we get to choose is really about, choice is about what you make up in the moment, the story you tell yourself, and what would move you forward, like choosing to love someone or
Mm.
choosing not to love someone. This is something you're capable of. Now, how you enact that, and how you may not be able, you may choose to, choose to love someone or fall in love with someone and choose to do it again and again, and you may not, they may not love you back. No
Mhm.
matter how much you choose to love them, no matter how much you do that, you may choose to do your very best at work and to do your very best, let's say, or pursue an idea that you have, but the world doesn't owe you that that idea should become a success. You may choose to play basketball, and at the end of the day, that doesn't mean the world owes you that you should become Michael Jordan.
True.
So there is what you choose, and there is how the world, let's say, unfolds, and then you get to choose again. So I may choose, I'll come back to the basketball example. I may choose to play basketball, and I choose to train, and I enact on those choices. I show up every day and train and train and train. But I think the trap that we fall into, well, I showed up and I did that. The world's owe me something. And maybe, I mean, maybe It does, but that doesn't mean it's going to deliver. Yeah, the world's going to do what the world's going to do, and it can change in a minute. What matters is, well, now I'm here and the world didn't deliver what I was expecting. What do I choose again? Do I choose to continue? Why do I choose to continue? So I'm more of in favor, because I don't like to say what's right and what's wrong, but I'm more in favor of getting internal signals rather than external, because external are not up to me. Internal are up to me. So it's better to be comfortable with myself and ask myself, what do I really want here?
What do I really want here?
Yeah.
I think that's a question that a lot of us as entrepreneurs ask ourselves. And often that was the question that led us to the entrepreneurial journey. Like,
Yes.
what is it that I really want? What is it that I want my life to stand for? To the legacy that I want to leave? What would bring me
Mm,
joy, fulfill me at a deeper purpose level? And I think that's a question that plagues everyone because I think it's a universal human question, right?
yeah.
Based on our existence. What is the meaning of life? What am I here to do? And there are times when we ask ourselves that question and we move on it and respond and say, okay, I would like to do this. Let's try it out. And then there are people who ask that question and hide or maybe run as far away as possible to the calling because they're not sure, they're uncertain of what it takes and what it would require them to become.
Yeah.
So I know throughout your life, you've had a variety of experiences where you're like, I want to do this. What do I want? I want to do this. And I have no idea how it's going to turn out, but you said yes to it anyway. Can you share some of those stories or those examples with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one of the biggest joys in life is to choose as much as you want from the things that you want to experiment with and explore. If you look at life as an adventure, which in my opinion it is,
Mhm.
it becomes far more fun if you explore and act like an explorer, like Jacques Cousteau or any of the amazing explorers. And that's why you see people like, let's say, Einstein or Da Vinci. And we think of those as geniuses. So we look at their intelligence level instead of looking at the humanity of those were explorers. They just explored in different areas and they never felt like Da Vinci didn't feel that I'm not a mathematician, so I better stick to my art. I am not an inventor. I am not a doctor. They never thought of themselves as what they do. What they do was a function of their desire to explore and the desire to discover themselves. So I think what happened in the past probably 100 to 100 years is because of the way the society has shifted and the systemic forces that says we live in a capitalist, let's say, system. And in that capitalist system, everybody has a function so that we can organize the system accordingly. You're a lawyer, you're a worker, you are X. And that is how we organize this society. And that's fine, by the way, that's great. It gave us productivity, it gave us progress, it gave us many different things, the way we organize society. Part of it is up to the capitalist system of organizing labor to produce, let's say, effectively and to be productive in producing certain things. But then I think what ended up happening is instead of the system serving us, we become servants of the system, where
Mm.
we now buy into this idea that this is my path, this is my career, when life doesn't ask us to do that. Life doesn't ask anything of us. Life just is. And we can choose to explore and discover. Like I loved guitar. I was like, oh, wouldn't it be great to play guitar? And I pursued it. And I liked it when I started playing. And I wanted more and I wanted more and I pursued it to the maximum. And then when I moved to Dubai and I started building businesses, I found joy in that and I pursued that as well without any blame And my mom would ask me, and she says, "You played guitar that much? Wouldn't like, oh, I feel so bad that you're not playing the guitar anymore." And I understand where she's coming from, but I don't feel bad. I was like, okay, I played it until I didn't want to play it again, or I didn't want to play it as much as me learning something else or working on something else. The same thing with building a company, the same thing with being with friends or being in the company of other people. We discover and we explore, and then we just stop enjoying something. So we should do something else. But we have this idea right now of consistency. My wife will kill me if she hears me saying this, because for her consistency matters. The idea of we need to be consistent. And yes, in certain elements like building a business, you need to be consistent. There are areas where certain things matter, but that doesn't mean we should apply it to everything in life. Life is about fun, joy, exploration. And that helps you discover who you are. We somehow convince ourselves that we know who we are, or the world will tell us who we are. And the world is a mess and will never tell you who you are if you depend on it. You choose who you are, and you get to do that every living moment. Imagine if you lived your life. Every moment you get to choose who you are again and again and again. So I can choose who I am today, and tomorrow I could choose, hey, I'm a pirate. And the day after, I can choose, hey, I'm a gamer, and I can choose different things and I can enjoy what that means. And if I want to continue, I do. And if I don't, I leave it. And we're so afraid to do that, mainly because what if we don't make money? Or what if it doesn't work out that way? But the problem is, even if you choose everything according to what life has given us, according to the right way, we may still fail. You may still choose the job because it's safe and the company closes tomorrow and fires you. You may choose to do everything that society asks you to do, and still you fail, or society fails you. So if there's no guarantees, why not have fun?
Yeah, I love that. I do believe that control is an illusion and playing it safe. And so many of us do it because we are scared, because we don't know. We're almost conditioned just to survive. And they say, "No, we want you to thrive. We want you to do all the things," but not really. Not
Mm,
really. It's survival of the fittest. It really goes back to that innate human, and we thought we've evolved past that, but it's ingrained in like survival of the fittest. And we'll see it in society in other ways. Maybe you're not fighting over land or maybe a woman, but like back in the day, maybe, but it's like, well, I have the bigger house, or I live in this neighborhood, and my kid goes to this school, and I have this car. So it's like the battle of who has the most, right? Keeping up with the Joneses, and that's what we're surviving. There's so much wiggle room for us to explore and have the fun that you were just talking about. And I just wanted to bring more attention to that because I think it's something that we overlook a lot, is this ability to explore. And I notice when I interview a variety of people on my podcasts, certain themes come up. And
mm,
the same theme is coming up of like you to have fun, treat life as an experiment, go explore, don't be labeled based on what you do. And you can choose a different iteration of who you are from day to
mm.
day. But we don't because we feel like we need to pay our mortgage. And it was so interesting. I just interviewed somebody, and if you actually look at the word mortgage in the origin, it means death contract. And I'm
Oh
like,
my God.
oh my gosh. And here we are all scrambling to go get a mortgage. It's like we've arrived if we bought our house. It means death contract. Oh, like
Oh
it
my
is
God.
time to rethink what is really important to us in life. And I love your message because what really is important to us in life is exploring and having fun and really soaking up every
Mm.
aspect of life. So thank you for that.
If I may comment on something you said, and thank
Yeah.
you for adding to that. When you say survival of the fittest, actually, I think we have an erroneous understanding of how we used to. In fact, in the past, there is no such thing called survival of the fittest. We
Mm,
didn't survive because we were the fittest. We are actually a very weak species. If you think about us, let's say our kids, babies, are the weakest for the longest among all species.
Yeah.
We take up until probably 15 so that we are capable of defending ourselves and fending for ourselves and finding food for ourselves. So that's a long, long time. I think, what is it? An elephant requires a year or something like this, or cubs of other, or maximum a year, 2 years, maybe less. We have the longest. So we are actually one of the weakest species. So we're not the fittest to survive. The reason we survived is because we were collaborative. We managed to collaborate with each other, form communities where some go hunt, some build houses, some maintain the safety so that the kids are at home. Because we collaborated, because we formed communities, that is why we survived. That is why we actually not just survived, we thrived and we dominated this earth over animals that are far stronger than we are. It's because of our collaborative approach. And if you think of any achievement in life, it's the result of collaborative efforts. Sometimes it's across time. So if we think, let's say, how science, math, art, all of these developed through period of time where somebody builds on somebody else's work, so collaborative across time. And in today's world, because we were able to compress time, that is the productivity aspect that we do, we come together to produce iPhones, computers, cameras, books, you name it. It's the collaborative effort that does that, because without collaboration, no one alone, I don't care how, I love Steve Jobs as a story and as an entrepreneur. I don't care how intelligent he is. He couldn't build an iPhone on his own. He needed all those engineers and all of these smart people to come together to collaborate from different backgrounds in order to build Apple. And the more diverse and the more we come from different backgrounds, the more capable we are to build something even better and bigger. So that is how we build. So there's a myth. In fact, that myth persists today to the point that what we've done is we have this, I call it toxic individualism, where you're supposed to somehow survive on your own. Like, you're 18, get out, and good luck. That's never was the case. We basically grew up in communities because you need a community. At 18, even at 30, you're not even ready to raise a kid at 30. Usually who raises the kids are the elders. Your grandparents raise the kids because they're far more wiser, calmer than you. You have more stamina and energy. You go out and contribute to the community. You build, you hunt, you feed. So we lost all of that because we focused on productivity and the systemic forces building a society, and we forgot the idea of building a community. And when community breaks down, it becomes the individual and the system. And that gap that falls apart because of the community. Because if you're working all the time, guess where you're not spending time? You're not spending time with your kids, with your family, with your friends, with your community. You're not able to contribute to anyone. Your only contribution is to work. And work cannot become your community because you don't have time for community there.
Yep.
So this is what ends up happening. And that is one of the major things that today we talk about, like the crumbling of the family and all of that. But actually what we're missing is the crumbling of community. And when community is lost, that what we call them third places, where we meet with others, where we have chats, where we talk about everything and the challenges, and we lean on each other, and we even just blow off steam. We don't have that. So you come back from work and you blow off steam at home and disaster happens. So these are the things that I think we're missing today. And that today is survival of the fittest, because you have to be fit on your own, and you can't. No matter how, I don't care how well versed you are, how great your childhood, how intelligent you are, how much well read, without your community, without friendship, without something between you and the system, I think there's a big challenge, and you will struggle on your own, I think, and we need that.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add that to what you said.
Yes, And no, I would totally applaud you if I could, because I grew up that way. I'm a firstborn generation of my mom who immigrated here from the Philippines. And in the Filipino culture, it's very multi-generational. So, yes, we were raised by our grandparents. And it was beautiful. And I talked to my cousins, and a lot of them lived with us while they were growing up because one made it to and you had a house, and then we helped the next person and helped the next one. And so it's just this beautiful, special childhood that we got raised in. And I am so with you on this idea of self-reliance. It's an illusion like control. It's like there is, no man is an island. I can't remember who said that, but it is a quote.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite quotes. No man is an island. I could not do this life on my own. People are like, oh my gosh, you can do everything. You're so independent. Like, no, I'm not. I just make it look good, but I would not be who I am without others.
Hmm.
And again, one of the gifts that I have of being somebody born without arms and legs is my need for others. I think it's a gift to need other people. And especially when you're in this place of uncertainty, what can be certain are the people around you, you surround yourself with, the community you surround yourself with. So whether it's uncertainty in going after your dreams or exploring something as a career or as a business, or uncertainty because you lost your job or your spouse decided to leave you, or there's so many things that can place us in a place of uncertainty. But that community, it's certain if you develop it correctly. So thank you for that beautiful contribution to that
Thank
conversation.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if you were to advise someone who's listening to this and they're on the verge, they're grappling with that question, what do I want to do? What do I want to explore? How do I want to have fun in
Mhm.
this life? And they're like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it, but I don't know how. XYZ. There's
Yeah.
always those questions. What would be your one piece of advice or first step that you would encourage them to take?
Yeah. I love sports examples because sports, even though I'm not I'm the least sporty, I do still love basketball, but I'm the guy who has this t-shirt that says sports because I don't know the names of the teams. I just know the names of a few famous players.
I
But
love,
I would say the way you know that you want to play basketball is by playing basketball. It's as simple as that. We may listen, if you want to be a doctor or an engineer, there are certain disciplines in life because we reached a point where these things are so entrenched and they have a discipline and you impact like nobody should let an engineer that doesn't have experience build a bridge because there are hundreds of thousands of lives that depend on it, or let's say build a building. Yeah, definitely these are that. But anything else in life, give it a try. You have nothing to lose. And I think what we can do is give some time of experimentation and say, you know what, these are the things that align with me, or I think they do, or I have a fascination with. Like we sometimes hear ourselves like, I always wanted to do X. I've always wanted to write a book. I've always wanted to play guitar. We say these kind of things. And a
yeah,
lot of times we think of those things as, I would say, less or stupid or not real work. And we still have this idea. And funny enough, if you think about them, who are the people who make the most money today? Who got married or got engaged? Taylor Swift and what's his name? The other
oh
guy.
yeah, I don't pay
Yeah.
much attention, but
Yeah.
yes. Okay.
But you know who I'm talking about. He's a football player and she's a musician. Okay. When I was growing up, if I told my parent, you know what, I'm going to be a musician, they will cry because that means I will live in poverty all my life. And maybe I will. Even an engineer, like no matter what career you took, you have equal chances of making it or not making it.
Yeah.
But the idea is now you can be a YouTuber, and something that we used to laugh off, like I would say 15 years ago or 10 years ago, like YouTuber, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
And these are
Now everyone
right
wants to do it.
now, what is his name? Mr. Beast. His business is $1 billion business
Yeah.
from doing stupid tricks. This guy started reading, what is it, counting until 100,000 or said subscribe to PewDiePie for 100,000 times, like for 24 hours, slept on. That's how he started. The stupidest possible thing. So I want us just to agree that success in life on that level, making money, achieving, let's say, status or so, doesn't require intelligence, as in how we see it. Oh, somebody succeeding, or they must be highly intelligent. Some of the dumbest people that you see have some of the most money. So let's drop your perception of what it takes, because that's an excuse. That doesn't mean it's not important, just to be clear. Like, of course, intelligence is important, skill is important, but first drop your own perception of it. And then if you had, I would say, ask yourself, if you had all the time and money in the world, so it's not what you're after. So these are not the limitations. What would you choose? What would you choose to experiment with? What would you choose to pursue? What are the things that matter most to you right now in this moment? Not the things that will make you successful 10 years from now, 5 years from now, even a year from now. The things that you would want right now, if you had all the time and money. Some people would say, I would sit on a beach. Yeah, but you're not going to sit on a beach 24/7. You're going to do something. What is it that you want to do for yourself? Might be playing the guitar, might be writing, might be starting a business, might be helping people, contributing to people. Who knows? Whatever that is, keep that in mind. So that is what you would do if you had all the time and money in the world. Now, the second question is, if you have no time and money in the world, what is the one step that you can do towards that goal? I'll give you a concrete example. When I first landed in Vancouver, I had 20 years of experience and success behind me. I built by then 20 businesses, and some of them were award-winning. I had already 2 agencies in Dubai, and I landed in Vancouver. I thought, I'm successful already. This is going to be a walk in the park. 6 months after, 200 job applications, all rejected, one lousy interview. I was like, okay, this is not working out. This is not at all what I expected. So everything was falling apart and I was running out of money. So I asked myself that question. And I came back to what I said, well, if I have all the time money, what would I do? It's like, well, I would write. I want to be an author. I was like, okay, but I don't have the time. I'm going down every day, downtown to Vancouver, to search for a job and going back at the end of the day. So I don't have the time. And then I'm spending time with family. I have to take care of the kids. My wife has been tired all day. We agreed that I'm going to search for a job. She's going to take it, because home, or what do you call it? Having somebody take care of the kids is far more. She would have to work and pay all her money to have someone take care of the kids. That doesn't make any sense. Let's just do that. I had 20 minutes on the bus to downtown. So I would sit in those 20 minutes and write. And on the 20 minutes back, I would connect with people on LinkedIn. And within 3 months, at the time, 2014, LinkedIn was just allowing content on its platform. So I became when people connect with me and go to my profile, they find me writing. I'm writing on things about business that raised my profile. So they are more willing to meet with me. I ended up having 100 coffees, connecting with 6,000 people over 3 months. And I got 5 job offers without even asking for a job.
Wow.
So that shifted all of my results based on pursuing what I wanted and working with what I have. And I ended up becoming an author 10 years after. It took time, but starting the few steps took the ball in a different direction. So I didn't immediately get my path toward authorship and writing a book, but I got other rewards because I took action. Nothing happens until you act on the choices you make. Everything starts with a choice, but then the actions and the words you say after and the actions you take, that's when you make an impact and the community responds to you. You still have to have a community. So I didn't have a community in Vancouver. I landed here, I didn't know anyone. So I started to build that community. I didn't wait for the community to exist for me. I started to build that community. And that is extremely important. So if you're on your own against the system, or there's you and the system, not just against it, but just that's you, there's a gap there. So in that case, I built a community and I built it fast. The more people you know, the more opportunity comes your way. Set what you want. If you had all the time, money in the world, take the smallest action possible and make sure you have a community where those actions matter and your contribution matter. And the rest, you can't control life. It's going to give you what it's going to give you. You work with it as it comes.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Hussein. This is a beautiful conversation. Such good reminders that you can step into your uncertainty when you choose to. And in your story, it's almost like I'm going to contribute out there, and the contribution created the community. And then the community created the collaboration for you to be able to have the opportunities that unfolded
100%.
before you.
I wouldn't be here
Yeah.
without the community that I contributed to, and it contributed back. And actually, it
Yeah.
started with them. I had people taking up their time to help me, mentor me, support me. I was like, I got to do something. I have to help. And that paid back in dividends. So just go out there, act on your choices, and see what life gives you, and then work with that, and then make the choice again, and then take more action and see what happens. And that's how life unfolds.
Awesome. Thank you, Hussein, for this conversation. For you who are listening or watching, this conversation with Hussein was a timely reminder that the most powerful thing we can do, especially as purpose-driven leaders, is to choose. Not someday, not when we're ready, but now. The moment you're in is the only one that truly exists. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to stay in the game, to play, to learn, and to give yourself permission to begin again over and over. That's what living victoriously looks like. Not flawless execution, but faithful presence. Not chasing certainty, but creating from clarity. And not being perfect, but being fully alive. So take a breath, make a choice, and remember you were made for more, and every small victory counts. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Small Victories Podcast, and until we meet again, be blessed.
Angel of light, come into me. Show me what I need to see. You are my path, way into the night. Lead me from shadows to light. You smile on my small victory, on my small victory. All of my life, I always knew you were the one I relied on. When every dream failed, when the worries prevailed, in your hands my spirits rose up. Show me what I need to see.